Hello, welcome to Beyond the Numbers, the show that gives you analysis of key development in Ghana's economy. And today, we will give you a very interesting story that has to do with how far, especially when it comes to our gold reserves, where we've gotten to now, where we started, and the implication of this on Ghana's economy. My name is Winston Taki, and I'm doing the show with
Caleb.
Yes, I think the last time we touched on the years since Ghana started oil exploration, but today we want to see one key commodity that has transformed the economy in the last 1 year. Although over the years we've been exploring mining gold for over several decades, but as a country where we stand is very critical, and today we're going to go deeper into that conversation. The numbers are telling us a very promising story. Over the years, Ghana has been mining. We have several mines in this country, and they have been performing astronomically when it comes to their outlook, the investment, the royalty. So the key question most of our textbooks have been telling us is we've been mining, but whether these mines, whether this mining, these royalties, this benefit has been reflecting in our development as a nation. But how best can we seal the loophole? Numbers have shown there were instances where smuggling became a key profitable venture where it's happened in several decades here, but it appears this new government decided to explore a better venture to bring about the institution of the gold board and what it has done. Today we heard that the management, basically the board has been instituted by the finance minister, the deputy finance minister, and that tells you there's a lot of work to be done going forward. So today, Caleb, suddenly I'm seeing 38.04 tons. What is this number saying?
Yes, so this is the Bank of Ghana's gold reserves. Now, before 2023, the Bank of Ghana was not actively adding gold to its reserves. And we know the US, Canada, the UK, most of the European countries, so much gold in their stockpiles. And then the conversation was, Ghana, we produce gold, but then we don't have gold somewhere. So why don't we start piling up our gold in case of any problems? And this came after the 2020 pandemic and how exposed Ghana was. So the BOG decided to say, okay, we have gold, we have mining companies in Ghana. Let's leverage on them to build gold reserves. Let's keep some gold here for any other global uncertainty or economic turmoil that we might find ourselves into. So the BOG now has 38.04 tons of gold in its reserves. And consider where it came from. So from independence till, so let's go to the next slide.
Yeah.
So from next slide again. So from independence till 2023,
yes,
we had 8.78 tons of gold.
That was very low then.
Very low. So since independence till 2023, May 2023, we had 8.78 tons. And the BOG was saying that, okay, from 2023, in the next 5 years, they want to double this from 8.78 tons to about 17 tons, give or take. So in 5 years, that was the aim of the BOG, to double it. If that's 5 years, I mean, from 2023, that's I think to 2028. Yeah. But then we are in 2025 and we've crossed the double mark. We are 38.04 tons. If we were supposed to do the doubling in 5 years, that would have been 17 tons, give or take. So
that was under the domestic gold purchasing program.
Yes. So there was a domestic gold purchasing program, and later that dovetailed or expanded into the gold for reserves program, which is why this started, and then the gold for oil program, which has now been discontinued. So now the gold for reserves program is where the BOG now has some contract with some of the mining firms, where every mining firm has who they take their gold to. So when they mine the gold in Ghana, they take it to some refineries abroad. All of them have their various refineries, and then they refine the gold on behalf of the mining firms. So the BOG has spoken to some of these mining firms and told them, okay, when we buy the gold from you, take it to your mining firm, let them refine it, and then we'll take back the refined gold and keep it in our vaults.
So in keeping it, we realize that the central bank has over the years grown these numbers. Yeah. In 2024, it is around 20.65 tons, right, and that number reflects in 2024. Although the instances where we started seeing the global price increase was the latter part of 2024, December, going into the first quarter. Gold began to look very promising for most countries. And within those periods, where that's when Trump decided to institute this policy. Today I had a conversation with a professor in the US, and he made me understand that the reason the dollar was struggling now was an intentional policy by the US to ensure that using the dollar as a sanction for countries such as Russia, China, and most countries was critical, because they realized it's important to trade and tax rather than using the currency as a means of instituting sanctions on other countries. And that development benefited African countries such as Ghana, who basically, when you look at that gross domestic product, it appears has been improving over the years. So with us increasing from 20.65% tons to 30.53 as of January 2025.
So we ended the year at
very prominent number.
29.31 tons. We started the year at 30.53 tons.
To reach 38 this number, it positions us very, very well on international outlook, giving us a very worldwide. We fell in a 60th position worldwide, and that is a very promising number.
Yeah, so we are 60th worldwide. That includes the IMF and then European Central Bank. So 60 countries are before us in terms of the countries with the most gold reserves. And in Africa, we are number 5. So you could go to the next slide. Just Algeria, Libya, Egypt, and South Africa have overtaken us in terms of the size of the country's gold reserves. So we are 5th, and then we've taken, so in West Africa, we're actually the highest in West Africa with gold reserves as part of our international reserves. So the BOG is doing this to try and protect ourselves from some of the problems that comes with relying solely on cash or other assets as your source of foreign exchange and reserves. And so let's go to the next slide. And you spoke about the price of gold. No, the next slide.
Before we get to the next slide, it's important to us acknowledge that Algeria is currently the first in Africa, and that by 173 tons, and basically followed by Libya, although the economy is currently struggling a bit. It appears this particular gold respiration is giving them a boost in terms of how much their central bank is able to invest in the economy. Followed by Egypt, we know the amazing thing, they've been able to diversify their reserve, basically their economy. So it appears the tourism sector is contributing hugely. So they're able to keep to another in cases of shocks. South Africa, we understand they are also doing well with big explorers. One thing that they've done improvingly is ensuring that not just their mining firms in their country, but they've been able to explore in other avenues, ensuring that they are able to diversify their investment. And should there be cases where the global price fall, they have hedged their product going forward. But Ghana, we are now still crawling, although we happen to beat Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Mauritius, Nigeria, Morocco, although they are in the 20s, and lately with Tunisia below 10%. And so we are there, but we are not there yet.
Yeah, but if you compare it to where we started from 8 tons, we're now at 38.04 tons. I mean, it's a good step. And also, you're always trying to limit your exposure to gold, which is why I wanted to come to this slide.
Yeah.
Because if you look at 2025, that's where the other red line comes from. You see that so this is the month-on-month addition to our gold reserves. So every month, how much we add onto the gold reserves. So you can see that from 2023 to 2024, especially 2023, we're adding a lot to our gold reserves. So in September 2023, we added 2.51 tons to our gold reserves. So as you can see from the graph, we're adding a lot to our gold reserves. But then in 2025, at the early part of 2025, we're not adding as much. You can see it's less than a ton. I think.
So those improved numbers were experienced in the last part of December 2025. That was basically 2024, around 3.08%.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in the whole of 2024, the government or the BOG was adding a lot to its gold reserves. And then early this year, and there was some comments from the opposition party that even when the new administration came in, they've not added a single ton to the gold reserves. And as you can see from the graph, it's true. And I think if you look at it from the perspective that gold prices were very high. And from last year, gold prices were about less than $2,000, almost $2,000.
Yeah.
This year, they're about $4,000. So now the question is, if gold prices are very high and you are keeping your gold, and you know that this high gold price is an outlier, because we know why gold prices are high, and like you rightly said, because of Trump's policies and some geopolitics and all of that. So because gold prices are extremely high, does it make sense for you to keep all your gold now, and in the next 2 or 5 years, when gold prices come back to their normal level, and they will come back to their normal level, from a high of about $4,000, they might come down to between $2,000 and $3,000. You've lost some money. So the BOG over here is probably selling some of the gold because it doesn't make sense to keep it while it's high. So you sell some and take the cash, keep the cash in your reserves, and keep some as a hedge. So instead of keeping all the gold in your reserves, because the prices are high, you have to sell some and benefit now, because in the next 5 or 10 years, the price will come down. And if you are keeping all of it now, you're actually going to lose value in the future. So which is why in 2025, we can see that even though we've been adding to our reserves, it's not as much as compared to the previous years from 2023, where we added about 2.5 tons in just 1 month alone. This year, the highest we've added in a month is 1.62 tons. And that's about 4% addition month on month.
Yes, it's interesting to note that in June, the program actually began in June, 17th of June 2020.
2023, yeah.
2022, before the real implementation began in 2023. And so seeing the initial aspect appears that was the confrontation the market had to do. But the key question then was how the government was cumulatively harvesting the gold from the miners. The tracing became a key conversation. And today also, I happened to be doing a research and I was being asked basically whether the quality of gold being harvested, was it basically from the 20% that is supposed to get from the various mining firms in the country, or are they basically coming from artisanal miners and basically those who are mining without regulation? And the conversation that became key prominent then was since the government decided the domestic gold program, selling your gold to government, making sure that the gold are made available, dealing with the case of smuggling, it appears that sector became a key driver. And if you look at the GDP figures released by the Ghana Statistical Service, you get to realize that the mining and quarrying sector from 2022 has been increasing consistently, including the first and second quarter. If you look at the GDP, it's contributed enormously in 2023, 2024. So over the years, we've seen that in early parts of this year, it came down a bit with services retaining its particular scope. So it tells you that although we are having a vibrant sector, there are risks involved in how we tend to trace the gold. And that also gives a kind of the places we can export the gold to. Some countries are very loud on the tracing. We've heard the CEO of Gold Board, Sami Jenfi, indicating that there's a particular policy that they are about to roll out to ensure every gold is traced to a particular source. But amidst the challenges we keep facing with 9 months and most of the agencies fighting galamsey, most of the key chiefs in those areas, most of the mining communities, the water bodies being destroyed. We saw the Environmental Protection Agency stepping in. All these conversations kind of paints a gloomy picture of how the gold sector is vast, the stringent regulation needed, how wide the exploration centers are, especially the places where we are mining gold. So it appears the regulations cannot even capture the scope. So if we can't control the mining companies or those who are into either legal or illegal mining, how can we say we can trace them astronomically to ensure we have the right gold with the right market?
I mean, you're very right, because some of the countries, the US, the EU, and then some of the major players in the gold industry, they don't accept gold if they don't know where it's coming from, which is why the Gold Board has started the gold traceability system, and it's supposed to come in effect early next year, 2026. But then once that happens, because at this moment we don't know where Gold Board is actually getting their gold from. It might be that they're getting the gold from illegal miners. So once the traceability starts, we are definitely going to see a drop, if not a marginal drop, in how much gold we are exporting for. And I think the next 2 slides shows the... Sorry, the next slide, Yeah, so there's the slide. So gold's contribution to Ghana's exports. So in 2012, we're doing below 50%. So our total exports, how much of this is gold? Below 50% for about 2012 to about 2023. And in 2024, we came past 50%. And early this year, the first 8 months from January to August, about 68% of our total exports was gold. Reliably
informed by the Ghana Chamber of Mines, basically.
Yeah, exactly, and this is also from the BOG and the Chamber of Mines. So about 68% of everything we export as a country is gold. So your entire economy is actually on gold's back. So if the price of gold should fall dramatically, it means that the economy will feel it. And also, if the price of gold should fall again, let's go to the previous slide. No, the previous one.
Yeah.
If the price should fall again, the amount in your gross international reserves. So let's go to the total gross international reserves.
Yes, we'll get to that, but as we're talking about the gross international reserves, it's important for us to understand how the gold has been playing over the years. We know that we have been working strongly to ensure that sector is covered. Initially, when you were making your submission, you mentioned that the Gold Board is in planning to bring the traceability, and that will seal the loophole. Another thing that is likely to come up is whether the security of those mining firms, the security of the transportation. We have already that same deregulated sector that happened with the oil marketing companies, movement of oil, the OMCs and all that appears to be seen here. And the same thing with Cocoa Board appears to be seen here. So it appears those agencies are collecting natural resources, basically cocoa, gold, all of this to the market internationally, because it appears the gold board is acting like Cocoa Board on the international market. Yeah. So they will sell the gold on behalf of the domestic seller. So naturally, we've seen the activity by Gold Board trying as much as possible to ensure those who are illegally smuggling gold are captured and arrested. They've done a couple of arrests, and we've seen it in publications. Some have even been arrested. There are even bounty on some personalities. Said if you see this person, report it. And I was like, that is a whole job. I can set up a company and say we arrested gold smugglers, and because of the bounty, we can work on that. But it appears there's an incentive for that activity. But there's a whole lot of work because the gold sector is huge, and there are big players in the market, both domestically and internationally, and how they transfer this gold out of the country is an activity that the Gold Board has to investigate strongly on that.
Yeah, and I perfectly agree with that, because once the Gold Board is now it's essentially a monopoly. Mm-hmm. Once you have a monopoly, regulation becomes a problem because of how vast the entire gold sector is. So having your eye on every area is not possible at this early stage, because you have to start operations. You have to expand, get more staff and all of that. So I think it will take some time moving forward for Gold Board to actually get their fingers everywhere within the gold sector. But then the traceability, like Riley said, is very important at this stage because of how we know the issues with Galamsey and all of that. But I think from the BOG's point of view, they deal directly with some of these mining firms. So they know exactly where the gold is coming from. And they have a whole KYC process.
Aggregators and all that.
Exactly. And they have a whole KYC process before they accept gold and before they take the gold to the refineries abroad, refine it and keep it in their gold reserves. So I think from the BOG's point of view, they are a bit more hands-on in the sector. As knowing where the gold exactly is coming from, more traceability, even though there's no established traceability system. But they know more of the mining companies they are dealing with and all of that. But then speaking on how the economy is reliant on gold, the BOG's books are also reliant on gold in a certain way, because out of this 10.7 billion in the BOG's gross international reserve, that's about 4.5 months of import power, about 30% of it is with gold. So
30% of this.
Yes.
So to basically educate some of our viewers, when we talk about the international reserves, how much of Ghana's savings are in foreign currency? Yeah. That is a simple way of putting it. Yes.
Yeah. So about 3 billion of this, so that's about 30% of this, 29 give or take, is in gold. So if the price of gold should fall, your gross international reserves also fall, and your imports cover also fall again. And this is more about the signal it gives to the market. So if the price of gold should tank dramatically, our reserves are going to take a big hit, which is why the BOG governor was talking about the hedging strategy and all of that, which we are yet to see. And I think at the next MPC meeting, the BOG would shed more light on that. So if about 30% of your international reserves are in gold, and we know how gold prices go up and down. Right now, they are going up. So it's good for the BOG because their books will look good. But do you think having about 30% of your reserves in gold or a commodity alone is sustainable?
When we talk, it's a very good question, because sustainability is a very dynamic. When it comes to the global gold trading, we are more of exporters, and our input basically counts when we sell. So basically, it's important for us to decide, especially to diversify our export portfolio. If we just focus on gold in times when the gold is not doing well and cocoa is doing better, where are we going to explore that? So it's important that the central bank decides to hedge to ensure they expand that portfolio against major global currencies when the dollar is also not performing. So there is this conversation about hedging, the kind of hedging. How can the central bank diversify its assets, which is the reserve, of course, either in dollar terms, whether in gold terms, whether in other portfolios such as commodities that we know, cocoa, oil, all those come into play. So in order to improve our dollar account in reserve form, it's important that the central bank has a lot of strategies under its sleeves. Don't forget, timing is very important as well. When there are geopolitical tensions, they tend to explore that. One thing I've got to realize recently is that the central bank does a lot deep research. It's not just as basic as it comes out, as we see, just a simple presentation by the governor. But you go behind the scenes and you study the data, it tells you a story that makes you understand that we were at somewhere before getting to where we are now. So that narrative, 4.5 month of import cover, tells you that in case there's any external shock, we have enough, about $10.7 billion to take care of any external trade that we have to take care of.
Essentially, can run the economy for about 4 months.
Without any pressure. Yeah. So basically, we have 4 months of breathing space. We have 4 months of savings. We can decide to do what we got to do. And that involves, that gives the central bank some confidence, basically, to decide that they can intervene in the market when the cedi is being unstable. The key question most Ghanaians are asking is, how long can the central bank consistently be dependent on the reserves portfolio to be stabilizing the currency instead of diversifying its portfolio and also ensuring the stability in the financial sector? So there is those responsibility that are the next of the central bank to ensure they execute it without ripple effects on the economy eventually.
Yeah, and like Riley said, the amount of reserve that BOG has directly impacts the value of the currency. Because once people can trust a currency, investors can bring in their dollars, take cedis and say, okay, I trust the Ghanaian cedi. I trust that when I want to change my profits or expatriate my profits back, the BOG will give me money. So this sends a big signal to the investor community, to the value of the currency and all of that. But then there are risks, and like Riley said, because once the price of gold tanks, your reserves will also come down. Yeah. And then that impact that the reserve had on your currency is going to come down a bit. But also, and because the BOG is intervening in the markets from the domestic gold purchase program, which is different from the gold for reserves program, I think that the BOG still has some muscle to come to the market. Because once you have a steady supply of gold from your domestic gold purchase program, you can sell the gold through gold board, get your forex, intervene in the markets. I don't think there should be a problem on the currency side unless the price of gold comes down dramatically or unless the production of gold comes down. So it's these two things, the price of gold, if the price of gold tanks, or your production falls. And earlier this year, the cedi depreciated, even though after the rapid appreciation that we saw, it went from, I think, 10 to 12 in just like 3 or 4 weeks. When that happened, according to the BOG and their MPC reports, they said it was because of production. There was a problem with production of gold, and also they couldn't get the gold to sell and then come and bring back forex because of some weather, and they said gold volumes fell. So once we see the direct implication of how gold production and gold prices affects your currency, I think being careful of how you intervene in the markets and when you intervene in the market is very important. And now the BOG has a new policy for how they intervene in the market, which is why every month now they come out and tell us how much they intervene. We've never heard this before. And then I just hope that the BOG comes out with that policy document for all of us to go through. Because I know it's a policy between the BOG and the IMF, because the IMF was on their neck to provide a policy before intervening in the markets. Because when they intervened with 1.4 billion earlier this year, the IMF was not happy, so they put in their report, but the BOG came out to defend it quickly. And now they've come out with a policy document on how they intervene in the market. So I hope we get to see that document. We get to see how the BOG decides the amount to intervene with, how much they are adding to their reserves, how much they are intervening with, what's the difference, are they intervening more than they are adding to their reserves, and also the value of your currency. If your currency is too strong, your exports will suffer. And you've heard from the Ghana exporters complaining that their exports are not favorable on the international markets because of the value of the cedi. So I think this is two sides to a coin. Either the value of a currency is very low and you can import so much, but your exporters suffer, your industry suffers, or the value of a currency goes down, and then it's very expensive. It's very cheap for you to export more things, but expensive for you to import. And then because we're an important country, we all like to import things. That
basically affects domestic producers, and that is a very good analysis.
Exactly.
One point you raised that I find quite interesting is where we are going on these numbers, and that is a very important one. And if the central bank decides to go in that direction, there's a lot of work to be done in ensuring that particular loophole where when it comes to the first quarter of 2026, let's not forget, we have fiscal obligations fulfilled.
Yeah.
We have a lot of debt. The Eurobond restructuring is basically in its conclusive stage. And we have domestic bonds, and all these bonds needs to be serviced in the first quarter. We are waiting to see that particular aspect in the budget presentation next week. And we are hoping also this may not become a challenge where we use a huge chunk of our reserves to be paying our debt, and it will have ripple effects subsequently. But it appears with 10.78 billion, 4.5 month import cover, we are sitting comfortably in a very good place. And that gives you a very good story as to where we came from, with gold selling at $3,900.
It's actually come down because gold prices were about $4,000.
Yeah.
They went to, I think, $4,200, and now they've come down to $3,900.
And so they are basically around those $4,000, $3,900. And so it tells you that if you buy stocks in gold, with the gold coin, because the central bank decided to put out as a product, gives a very good number. So we still want to conclude on a very important note, which is Ghana is Africa's 6th in terms of gold ranking, gold reserve ranking, 60th around the world. And most importantly, currently our reserves as gold in terms of the central bank's holding is around 38.04 tons. Caleb, what do you say?
So I think this is a good figure, especially from where we're coming from. From the 8 tons, we're now at 38 tons, because you need to diversify your foreign exchange and your foreign reserves. But then the dependence on gold and how gold prices affect your entire reserves is a problem. And we must not rely too heavily on gold in our reserves.
Let's not rely too heavily on gold in our reserve. How diversified is our portfolio
and the hedging strategy
in terms of where we are? We're waiting to see the hedging strategy by the Bank of Ghana and how it will reflect on our economy, basically. Thank you for watching today's edition of Beyond the Numbers. My name is Winston Taki, and I did this with
Caleb Ziblin.
Certainly, Kofi AJ is always in that spirit. He will be joining us next week. And thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the rest of the program here on Joy News. Bye-bye.